youngsters that spirituality is not religion, and having a spiritual quotient can really change your mental attitude and shift. So that is my question. Like, before we go ahead, I think we still have 4 minutes.
I
I think
think
we
How
are
are we
now
done?
live. We are now
uh,
live, Anuja.
you need to
Yes.
talk more about it, I
Yeah.
think, and remove the stigma. So,
Mm.
we talk more about things which we don't want to talk about. Like, if you
Correct.
see in media, you talk about things which should not be spoken about. You speak about positive things. The more you make it, more you normalize it, the more it's easy. It's like in the morning you
Correct.
get up and brush your teeth, right? Nobody talks about it, right? It's brushing your teeth is a normal thing. But
Yeah.
if you are making spirituality and meditation as a regular thing, it has to be like that. So you have
Right.
to normalize it. That is what I would say. So influencers, people on the top, if they talk more about it, they say it as a normal routine. Okay, I meditate as my routine.
Yeah.
It becomes normalized. It's not a special thing you're doing. It's almost every mental health professional will do something like that because they
Correct.
need that peace. So
Correct.
normalize it is what I would say. Promote it, normalize it. That's the and there's those language like, oh, are you a geek to meditate? Or you become
Yeah.
very, all those stigmas or all those judgments need to be gone out. So if that
Right.
and that starts from school actually. So I'm a very big promoter of meditation in school. So you start
Yeah.
that instead of having those specific prayers and whatever they do in school in the morning, you just do 15 minutes meditation, mindfulness, whatever works for you.
I think this will cover. We have a question specific, catering to this aspect. I think we are live now. I'll wait for Maitri. Maitri, shall we start? Uh, yeah. I'm not sure. So
So, Anuja, it looks like we are live on YouTube right now.
yeah, I'm just waiting for the clock to start. Yeah, 50 seconds.
1 more minute left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my laptop is already 3.
We've been informed it's 50 seconds. I think now we're
That's
almost there. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's panel discussion on mental health to understand, to acknowledge, and to act. My name is Anuja Pandey, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm an engineer. I've done my master's in industrial management. I have enjoyed a brief corporate stint with an automotive manufacturer in Mahindra in Pune. I embraced pranic healing over a decade ago, and I am now working as an authorized instructor with World Pranic Healing India, and I train people into pranic psychotherapy. Now, since some of us are not aware about what pranic healing is, I would just give you a very brief introduction. Pranic healing is a complementary therapy. It is a no touch, no medicine energy healing process in which we are tapping into our own body's ability to heal itself. It works on three simple principles. We scan what are the abnormalities in the energy body, we cleanse and remove anything that's not suitable for the body, and we re energize and revitalize it with prana. Now, this system was developed and researched and highly tested by the researcher named Grandmaster Chokutsui, who is a modern founder. But he always says that these teachings were ancient, they are ancient in nature and quite esoteric. So it's just for a lot of us to, really be able to connect with it. It's now translated into English. I've trained more than 1,000 people into the field of pranic healing. I have conducted a number of sessions for public, corporate, and educational institute, bringing about awareness on stress management through pranic healing, conducting meditation on stress relief or meditation on loving kindness. And I am also certified pranic healer with Institute for Inner Studies Inc., Philippines. And I am very blessed to be a part of this discussion and to be surrounded by our esteemed panelists. Indian Thought Exchange, which is a platform established by Zero Gravity to initiate great discussions that build great solutions. It's not just discussions, we are planning to get certain solutions from the sessions. Now, Zero Gravity is a Nagpur-based social impact organization which operates under the aegis of Dr. Shrikant Jijkar Foundation. And it is an organization that creates opportunity for young change makers to come together to use their genius on social project or social good projects. Zero Gravity intervenes in the work and works in the field of space rehabilitation, quality education, health, employment, environment, and sustainable rural development. Currently working on transforming government schools through infrastructure interventions and transforming shelters for children, women, and into transforming them into beautiful, comfortable homes across the country. And I was blessed to be a part of this amazing organization in its initial stages. So it's a beautiful culture, it's a beautiful way to work with. Now, today on the panel, we are very lucky to have with us an esteemed set of panelists. I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Parveen Sheikh. Parveen is Head of Outreach and Collaboration at Empower Minds, an organization working on mental health. This organization is founded by Neera and Ananya Birla. She is member of National Adolescents Resource Team for Ministry of Youth Affairs. Ms. Parveen Sheikh is a counseling psychologist, trainer, life skill and career coach, working in mental health, educational and development sector for past 22 years. She has developed teacher and counselor training program and training projects in association with various states and government organizations, as well as worked with international organizations like UNICEF and USAID. She has developed modules on teacher training on mental health, career counseling, life skills, and various career resources. She has also been trained by Dr. Waldroop, Director, Career Services Cell at Harvard University on career leader assessment and counseling. So we welcome you, Parveen. Thank you for joining us for the session. We also have, thank you. And we also have with us Manish Malhotra. Manish is Certified Emotional Intelligence Coach, NLP Master Practitioner and Trainer, a therapist, a leadership and life coach, having undergone intensive training in NLP, certified by American Board of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Apart from this, he is also a trained yoga and mindfulness practitioner. He had coaching engagement with companies like Levi, Adobe, NIFT, and Siemens. He has got a corporate experience of over 16 years in management and leadership roles at organizations like Titan, Future Group, Valdel, Jubilant, including a stint as Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. Welcome, Manish. We have with us Poonam Minaria. Poonam is a professional in the field of counseling and psychotherapy with specialization in career counseling, relationship counseling, personal counseling, facilitation, and training. She is director with Lighthouse People Services. Poonam Minaria is a self-awareness mentor at Lemon School of Entrepreneurship. She had been providing training, counseling, and aspiring entrepreneurs as well as startup founders. Poonam had counseled more than 5,000 young adults and individuals and reached out to more than 12,000 young adults and parents. By education, Poonam has her MSc in psychotherapy, MS in psychotherapy, I apologize, and psychotherapy and counseling, MSc in counseling psychology, Master NLP practitioner, US and advanced TA practitioner. So I welcome all of you to this panel discussion. Now, when we talk about health, we talk about physical health in a more common aspect, how our bodies are feeling. But more or less, we tend to forget the significance and importance of our emotional and mental well-being, forget about spiritual aspect or spiritual well-being. Now, mental health is a topic as serious and as important it is majorly a victim of stigmatization. If a person approaches a psychotherapist or seeks mental health, he in the recent past was not looked up as a very stable person. And currently and recently, with a lot of awareness that is coming amongst youngsters, now this has emerged as a topic to talk about comfortably and openly. Some of us are really seeking help, but still a majority lag behind. So today I would request all our panelists to first talk about what and really understanding what mental health looks like, what are the needs of being mentally healthy, and what is the importance of mental health and well-being. So can I request Mr. Manish to talk about it, and then we will ask other panelists to shed some light on the same topic.
Sure.
Yes,
Thank
Manish.
you. Thank you so much, Anuja, for that introduction and the background. So, the first thoughts that come to my mind when I think about mental emotional wellness, four quick points. I think that would summarize the entire approach that I take to this. First is mental emotional wellness is not merely an absence of mental illness, right? I think that's the first thing we need to address. It's not merely an absence of something which is wrong, right? Our focus is not on that. It is a state of flourishing. It is like physical exercise is not about having a physical disability, right? We exercise so that we flourish. So the terminology I like to stick to is mental emotional wellness. That's what we are here for. That's what all of us are trying to do. So that's point number one. Second point, I think it's very important to state upfront. Mental wellness, mental emotional wellness is a skill and it is an act of will. It is not something which comes from outside. Like any other skill, it can be developed, right? And the more we practice it, the more we get better at it. Initially, it takes effort, like all of you would know, some participants also watching would know, it takes practice, it takes effort, right? It doesn't come easy. So initially it takes effort, but later on it becomes a byproduct of the practice itself. So it's a nice little loop going. So that's about wellness. The third point is there are very core foundational elements to wellness, the way I approach it. One is attention, the quality and degree of attention we pay inside, outside, everywhere. Second is emotional self-awareness, which is coming directly from the mindfulness Satipatthana tradition in Buddhist philosophy. Are we aware of our body, the sensations, the state of the mind? What are the mental objects? So that's emotional self-awareness. Very, very critical skill. And the third, of course, is compassion, karuna, right? Karuna, it's called, it's compassion. These are the key ingredients to building mental wellness. And the last point is, to me, all life is learning and memory. Everything is learning and memory. What we learn, what we unlearn, what we forget, what we remember to forget or forget to remember. So when we talk of mental wellness, this is the approach that we like to take in the field. This is how we approach it. This is how I personally approach it. So those are my initial views.
Thank you so much, Manish. It's actually a very beautiful aspect to carry forward this discussion. Poonam, what is your take on this topic? How do you look at mental wellness?
That's a beautiful question, and Anuja and Manish, you have answered so well. He has cleared a lot of things. So when students, or in fact young adults, or anyone who comes to me, and when I ask a simple question, what is mind? Can you see it? Can you know where? Because it is here, and they'll just point it across here and say yahan par hai.
Hmm.
So if you ask any computer science student, he will say, हर किसी को ये बताया जाता है कि this is a processing unit, this is a CPU, this is not where everything is clocked here. And when a very famous cardiologist, maybe you must have heard of his name, Dr. B.M. Hegde, when he was asked what is mind, he says, never mind. So
Yeah,
that's the beauty of mind. Matlab, we experience it, but we don't know what mind is.
right.
So the way we experience is through our thinking, through our feeling, and through our actions. So these are the easiest ways to understand what is it that we go through. We think, we feel, we act. Okay. So through all these things, I think it is very easy. And for me, health is not opposite of illness. Health is optimization, or something which is a homeostasis, which can be brought you know with optimization of both negative, positive, and the energy with which we hold. So it's not opposite. Like light is not opposite of darkness, it is absence of light. So that is how health is. It is optimization of your inner resources.
Really a beautiful way to look at it, optimization of resources. And some of us may not be aware of these resources. But before we go towards that aspect, can I request Poonam to share your views on importance of mental health and what you look at mental health as?
Yes, as I said,
Sorry, Praveen, I'm
yeah.
extremely sorry. The question goes to Praveen.
Yeah,
I'm extremely
that,
sorry.
So I am a little logical in the approach of this. So when you look at the definition of health by the WHO, okay, WHO says health is what? Health is a complete well-being of physical, mental, and social. So all these three aspects. So it is not merely the absence of. So if I'm not unwell, doesn't mean I have health. It doesn't mean that, right? If I'm not unwell, it doesn't mean I'm okay. So your health is a well-being of all these three factors. So health, what Manish and what Poonam said, I absolutely agree. And of course, the best way to explain that. But what people forget about a simple difference between physical health and mental health is when you have physical health, you have common cold.
Yeah.
You say, oh, I'm sick, I have got common cold, okay, very easily, or I have diabetes, or whatever you have. But when you have mental health is different from mental illness. So that whole picture becomes completely different. Okay, how many people will say, oh, I'm suffering from depression compared to I have depression, and how many will actually say that? So that terminology, that way you look at mental health, we pretty much look at the same thing. And when somebody says, oh, I've got diabetes, you oh, take care, do this, do that. But when somebody says, oh, I've got depression, I'm like, okay, or anxiety, okay, what's wrong with this person? So that differentiation, if you understand that differentiation, because we all have mental health. There are days when you are not feeling so good. There are days when you're feeling great, right? The same thing happens with physical health also. But how many of us say, okay, today I have a low day. That doesn't mean I have mental illness. Mental illness is supposed to be defined on certain criteria. So that difference people need to understand. Then they will accept it and do something about it. It's not, something which will change your life. You can live with it and live with it beautifully. So I can give you many examples of that. So that is what I feel. Accept it as part of life, mental, physical, social, and then work on it. That's what I would say.
That's really beautiful. I'm very happy that we have panelists across, people who are emotionally thinking and people who are, mentally processing and logically giving us inputs, because now we have a varied perspective. So my first question is to Poonam. Poonam, what are the early signs and symptoms of mental illness, and is it same for children, young adults, and elderly?
Okay, I don't deal with children, Anuja. I deal with the age group from 13 to 45, 40, 45.
Okay.
That is my age group where I deal with it.
Mhm.
So in those places where mental illness is concerned, see what happens is when when a doctor or a person who is associated with that person, like a parent or someone who knows that they are suffering in a certain manner, they go through a lot of confusion because they are only aware of this is happening to them. There's a lot of stigma attached when it comes to illness as per se. Nobody wants to accept, I am suffering from a certain clinical state, the so called clinical state. और ऐसा होता भी है कि लोगों को पता भी नहीं होता that they are going through a certain clinical depression or clinical anxiety or anything which is coming towards dysfunctional aspect. So this is very important when we need to understand ऐसा कोई भी human being नहीं होगा on this earth who does not have certain dysfunctional responses or reactions in life. Okay, everybody responds dysfunctionally in thinking, everybody responds dysfunctionally in emotion, everybody responds dysfunctionally in behavior in some ways or the other. तो जब आपको पता चलता है कि आपको कोई मेंटल इलनेस है या यू आर गोइंग थ्रू अ सर्टेन illness which is diagnosed by someone, then it is, fine that you put a, you put a stamp or something which says, there is an illness. Otherwise most of us are going through a certain state of anxiety, worry, a mild form of depression. क्योंकि मैं बहुत सारे बच्चों को मिलती हूँ और वो लोग कहते हैं कि मैम मुझे ना बहुत कंसंट्रेशन इश्यूज है, मुझे ना डिप्रेशन है, मुझे एंजाइटी कंटिन्यूअसली होती रहती है. So these are not the terms that some doctor or some psychotherapist or a clinical psychologist has given them or stamped them. These are the terms which they are loosely using because of the so-called easily access to so much of information. So
Right.
not necessarily everyone is having a certain illness as per se, unless it is being diagnosed by a practitioner who says, now you need to see and deal with it. Now, if you're talking about the various aspect, how to understand, that's another story because depression will have a certain different signs, anxiety will have a certain different signs, schizophrenia will have a different signs, PTSD will have a different signs. So we need to work. We need to understand सबके अलग-अलग characteristics है, सबके अलग-अलग interventions
Right.
है. So it is very difficult right now to pinpoint each and every aspects of symptoms. But
Right.
yes, unless somebody who is a practicing psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist says that there is an illness, and generally when I am dealing with anyone, I don't say you are suffering from so and so thing. I have never ever stamped anyone saying you are suffering from so. This is the last thing that they want. Okay. So getting them to my chamber or getting them to my center itself is a big act for parents or whomsoever, friends or anyone who gets them there. And then if I say, you are suffering from this, and I blow it out of proportion, I have never ever done that in my practice. So that's fine. There are ways to deal with it. And in some form, जब मैं काफी सारे मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल्स को भी जानती हूँ, तो बड़ा मजेदार है जब वो एमबीबीएस करते हैं या यूजी लेवल पे होते हैं ना, तो जब व्हेन दे आर गोइंग थ्रू अंडरस्टैंडिंग लॉट ऑफ एनाटॉमी एंड द प्रोसेस तो वो लोग मुझे बताते थे कि जब हम समझते थे डिफरेंट डिसीजेस, तो हम अपने आप को ही लेबल करते थे, आई माइट बी सफरिंग फ्रॉम दिस, आई माइट बी सफरिंग फ्रॉम दिस. व्हेनेवर आई वाज आल्सो रीडिंग डीएसएम-4, आई यूज्ड टू थॉट, अरे यार ये तो मुझे भी हो सकता है, शायद मुझे भी है, ये मुझे भी है. सो वी सफर फ्रॉम दैट एस्पेक्ट दैट दिस माइट बी हैपनिंग टू मी. So we all go through this, and we may have everything whatever is mentioned in DSM-4 in some ways or the other. So yes, there are ways, unless it is being specifically mentioned by a professional which says you are suffering from a certain illness, then accept it. Otherwise don't go by with the world wide web or your peer circle
Yeah.
saying you are suffering from this.
Right. I think recently doctors would have, if you have diagnosed your ailment and if you've come to us, I'll charge you more, because people self-diagnose a lot of times and they don't seek help. Parveen, I have a question for you. Continuing the talk with Poonam. So just before we started the session, we were talking about how can we make this more preventive rather than going into the curative aspect. Can we imbibe certain aspects in children and maybe we can talk, how can we build that infrastructure? How can, this system be developed in schools, in educational institute, which you have already worked on, and you have quite an experience in that field, and then carrying forward to young adults, like the helpline that you've started for the helpline that you recently started. So what are the infrastructural needs? How can we take care, and how can we make it more preventive, and also focus on the curative or the relief aspect, if not curative, but the relief? So yes.
Great question, and I'm very happy you asked me this question. So first, let's look at the numbers. Some years back, WHO said 7.5% of Indians have mental illness. They predicted by 2020, it'll be 20%. Now just understand that number based on a population, okay? And the major number of mental health disorders are between 15 to 39, between that age group. That's the young age group. India is the youngest country in the world now, right? So you can imagine that our youth, which is susceptible to mental health illness at a higher number, and if they have mental health problems and we do not prevent it, what are we doing? We are directly impacting economy, because mental health will eventually impact the way they function as full, complete adults. So that's the gravity of the situation. Again, a study says the 70% gap out of the 100% people who have mental health problems, there is only 30% help available, because we don't have so many psychologists, we don't have so many psychiatrists, right? So that's the problem. So prevention is the only cure over here. In this case, prevention is extremely important. And mental health, unlike physical health, which comes to your life when you're 30, 40, you hear people saying, oh, I have diabetes, or I have high BP, or whatever, post 35, 40, whatever. But a mental health problem can come as early as 7 years also. At an Empower Center, we see very young students who have clinical depression, and apart from the learning issues which they have. So starting early, very important. So the first step I would say is, to make it, I was telling you, make it normalized. You have a physical period, right, in school. Why don't we have a mental health curriculum? So in fact, I'm very happy to say that this year Empower is launching a Minds Matter curriculum. It's a mental health curriculum from class 1 to class 12, taught by the psychologists. It is created by psychologists, and we've been doing it in our schools for the last 6 years, in the Aditya Birla schools. And this year, we are opening it to all the schools across India to take this mental health curriculum. So age-appropriate concept. You talk to a kid, a first standard kid, about depression, he's not going to understand depression in first standard, right? You don't have to. You talk to a child about bullying in a younger class, they won't understand. All these aspects, whether it is a neurotic aspect about stress or anxiety or panic attacks, so they are age-appropriate concept taught in schools, whether counselors are addressing this. That's when you start educating the children. So you get that in your school. You address that in your school. That's one thing. Then parents, parents feel the stigma behind, when a counselor calls a parent to school to discuss the behavior of a child. I mean, the parent is like, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with my child. They want to mollycoddle the kid. You call it helicopter parenting or whatever parenting you call it. Stop that. You have to work on developing fully. One is, and not only in government schools, private schools who can afford it. It's also government schools everywhere. So like we have the youth mental health first aid certification, which we offer. This certification is for anybody who is a lay person who wants to become mental health first aider to youth. So we have done it across so many schools, teachers, parents, even corporates, that when you have young people joining in, they won't approach a psychologist, they won't approach a therapist always, they're not available. What do you talk to them for, so that you can help them? So introducing courses like that, so that people are available, using the right language, sensitizing the corporates. Like, a corporate has their, their quarter-wise productivity percentage. Like, you do your quarter-wise productivity in mental health, because mental health directly affects productivity. Right? So the first step is talk about it, destigmatize it, start in school through a curriculum, through certification, engaging teachers. All teachers learn child psychology in B.Ed. It stopped there. It has to go beyond it. You cannot stop one chapter. It will not teach you to be a psychologist. And you have to train the teachers and parents to talk in the right language. Like people say, a lot of students, the number is very high on self-harm. a child will cut their arms. We get all these cases a lot, and that's a road to suicide. But people are so scared to talk about suicide, But if you read on suicide counseling, you will say that when you think somebody is looking at, suicide, you have to ask them the direct question. There are certain skills which you need to train people in that. Again, the helpline, when we, introduce the helpline, I'll share the number later for everybody to call. It's a 24-hour helpline, Marathi, Hindi, English counselors. 50, and it is in association with the BMC and Government of Maharashtra. We've got more than 47,000 calls. Majority of the calls are males. 68% are male callers. And the age group is youth. It's 25 to 45. That is the age group. So you can imagine, people are, and 52% people in the helpline are calling for anxiety. Obviously, pandemic anxiety. So talk about it, not make it a taboo. Okay, begin in school. If you've unfortunately not learned in school, introduce it in your organization, make it a mental health friendly organization. If everybody, all the stakeholders, schools, organizations, government come together, like even the Mental Health Act of 2017, they decriminalize suicides. Okay, now a person who's committed, you can't use the word committed. It is died by suicide. They have changed that. But till now, the insurance is not covering everything. Insurance is only covering hospital expenditure. So all these things have to come together to make it easier for people to access mental health services and prevent it through education. So you start by education and awareness and then go to prevention. If you do that from bottom top, you might, see a lot of, and we have such a big population of youth. Imagine if everybody's healthy, look at our economy, where it will go, so we have to look at the bigger picture like that. So intervention is not only through organizations like Empower, but from schools, from colleges, from corporates, from everywhere, individuals, and you put it together and like I see the news, the way they're covering the suicide recently of a celebrity. I mean, they're making some news, they're making him a big villain, a weak person. I mean, that's not right. I mean, you don't know what's going around in that person's mind. You talk about it neutrally. In fact, I've analyzed a lot of news channels. A very few people have used the right terminologies. The terminology only is wrong. We very casually use pagal hai. Are you crazy? We use this so casually, So it's very important. And also diagnosis. Like how Poonam said, you can't label somebody unless the person is showing the symptoms for more than 2 to 3 weeks. If somebody is sad for a day, they say, oh, you're very depressed. I mean, that's a label. You don't have to give that label. So all these things together will will change the mental health scenario, because currently COVID pandemic, we are going to again encounter mental health pandemic because of what this is coming out to, So we need to be prepared with all these things, with awareness, with destigmatization, by education, and obviously counseling and preventive services and curative services.
Right. So you've really spoken, in depth about how it starts at the very young age of 7.
Yes.
And somewhere or the other, it's not just the child himself, but it's also the environment that the child is put into. It's the relationship of the parents. It's the financial condition that a child sees. And when that adult grows up to be a person who is earning now, they go through different levels of challenges altogether. And Manish, you've been working in engagements. You work with a lot of corporates, you work with a lot of employees, and they have their own set of mental health challenges. So how do you cater to them? How do you cater to masses when it comes to these aspects? And what are certain tips and techniques that you share with them? And would you like to share any technique with the audience?
Okay, wonderful. So first of all, I'm really happy to hear Poonam and Parveen talk about the labeling aspect. I think I spend a lot of time in the initial sessions removing the labels. They come with labels and then you spend a lot of time removing the labels. So that was very well said. Now, in terms of the work that I do with corporates or individuals, I work with both. The approach is very oriented towards certain skills, right? It is not, as I said, and as my co-panelists have said, about problems. It is about what kind of skills go into mental wellness, right? So in a corporate environment, typically, you can't go in and say, okay, like let's start fixing things. No, it's not my job or any of my co-panelists' job to fix anything. There's nothing wrong. It's just trying to improve the state of flourishing. So in a corporate environment, typically, what are some of the challenges? All of us are aware of, right? The first challenge that comes is something which is called psychological safety, right? For example, when we are having this session here, right, there's a certain element of psychological safety, right? We are listening very intently. We are listening very respectfully. People are allowed to say what they want to say, right? So in a corporate setup, the scene slightly shifts and you move towards issues like psychological safety. You do a lot of work around mindfulness. We may not call it mindfulness. For example, it doesn't sit well with everybody. Some people associate it with religious things, though it's not. Mindfulness is a very secular practice. But fine. So if somebody has an objection, then we work on, let's say, attention training. It's the same thing. Can you notice what's happening in your body right now? If you're feeling angry, where is that anger in your body? If your boss has just, given you a dressing down, where is your reaction coming from? Now, I don't have to talk of mindfulness and yoga there. I can talk of attention training. I can talk of simply noticing, right? So psychological safety is one, mindfulness and attention training is second. And the biggest thing which we work on is the biggest thing, one big thing, just developing the skill of listening. Really listening, not hearing, really listening. Not just the words, even the gestures, the body language, it holds so much meaning, right? So since your question was specifically on corporate, I'm limiting myself to that, though there are many more answers.
Yes, so can you share your top 5 tips to someone who is going through mental health challenge? Like, let's say if someone cannot differentiate whether it's sadness or depression, like earlier pointed in the discussion, or if it's excitement or anxiety, or if it's really a need for security, or if the fear is unreal. So in case if you come across any individual, not just in the corporate sector, but any individual, and they come to you and they just need quick 5 tips, what can they do? Or any technique, maybe a 5-6 minute technique that they can practice to bring that change. So what will be your tips?
Lovely. So I do have a 5-6 minute technique. I'll take you all through it slightly later, maybe after my panelists have spoken for another round. So I have something lined up. It's beautiful. But to come back to your question, before we get to the tips part, sort of a mental health first aid kit, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
Let's first also understand what are the common, signs that somebody is facing a challenge. Again, I'm not getting into DSM-5 labeling or anything. I'm keeping it broad, right? I'm just saying I'm feeling a little challenged. Now, I don't know. It's only a psychiatrist can tell me what is the classification. But as mental health professionals, we need to have a very good understanding without using the labels, right? So first, let me take you through some common signs that we find, right? And then I'll tell you a few tips, right?
Okay.
So now I'm looking at mood disorders, right? Which are very distinct from thought disorders. So most of the time when we talk of mental challenges, these are mostly affective state disorders. We're challenged with some of those. First sign to watch out for in a lot of these cases, anhedonia, which is inability to feel pleasure or to sustain that feeling of pleasure, right? If that is a sign which you're seeing, start watching out. There may be some work that needs to be done there. Second is the incessant, continuous rumination loop. People are replaying things of grief or guilt or shame. There's an incessant rumination loop. It comes out in conversations, right? So I'm talking about just general observations, which all of us can observe. Third is, it's a technical term, but I'll lay it out. It's called psychomotor retardation, which is psychomotor. Psycho is mind, motor is the body. So a slowness, you thinking very slow, you're getting stuck. Even the movements are slow. Come on, let's go for a coffee. No, yeah, I want to chill. I'm okay where I am. That was a signs of psychomotor retardation. That's the third thing to watch out for. Self-injury, I think Parveen mentioned it. She is the expert here on those things. Any signs of self-injury. Fifth thing, and these again, I repeat, are very normal things. All of us can observe it. You don't have to be a professional. Disruptions in sleep and appetite, right? Disruptions in sleep and appetite will point towards some imbalance. Poonam used the word homeostasis right in the beginning. It's a beautiful word. All of us should know that word. Any disruption in homeostasis would result in these things. Certain behavioral signs, social withdrawal would be one. Chronic procrastination would be another. And a general feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness. So to my mind, this is the frame that points to something that is challenging. There may be specific signs for specific stuff. Now let's move to the positive. What are the tips, right? Not as a professional, not as a therapist, not as a psychologist, just as a friend, as a relative, as a co-worker in a workplace, right? Not all of these may apply to everyone, but here, nevertheless, I'm going with it. First of all, support whoever it is that you're supporting. Encourage them to spend time outdoors. Okay, that sounds very cliched, but there are very specific scientific correlates to that. It has to do with certain, neurotransmitters and hormones like serotonin, etc. I will not go into that, but those are the specific correlates. Spend time outdoors. Your retinal, the eyes, right? When they're exposed to sunlight, there's a part in the brain called raphe nuclei, which synthesizes serotonin. So that is the precise science explanation. Go with it. Second, physical exercise, encourage them. Nothing grand, nothing, no marathons and half marathons. Just climbing up and down the stairs is enough. Get that going. Again, it has specific correlates to activation circuits and neurotransmitters. I will not lay them out. Suffice to say that there is clear scientific evidence of this helping. Third, diet. I think Poonam was talking of diet initially, and so did you, Anuja. Right? Diet is very important. Again, there is a very specific element on diet, which works well with people who are facing certain challenges. This has to do with, if you go back to your basic biology, you have certain amino acids which are essential, which means the body doesn't make them. They are taken in through food, right? So tryptophan is one amino acid, the other such amino acids. So talk to a nutritionist, figure out which are the proteins which are specifically needed. They again go back into synthesis of hormones. Fourth, it's more a psychological thing, but it's very important. If somebody I know is going through a little bit of a shadow, I would encourage the person to take up activities where they score small wins. You know what small wins are? Just the act of doing something and achieving even a small goal goes a long way in helping them, right? So do that. That's the fourth tip. Fifth tip is, if you can, teach them some focused attention training. Call it mindfulness, call it meditation, call it yoga, call it whatever, but teach them how to focus their mind, right? Keep the mind on one thing for a certain duration. Very helpful. Specific neural correlates. This is not a neuroscience class, so I won't go there, right?
Right.
Sixth point, very important. It's the last point. Encourage the person to give more to others. A lot of mental health challenges are due to extreme self-absorption, extreme self-centeredness. Just the act of giving to others, again, it has scientific correlates linked to theory of mind regions in the brain, linked to empathy regions in the brain. So that's the last point. And there's one thing which none of us should do. Okay, so I've told you 6 points, and there's one point which nobody should do. which is, for God's sake, do not psychoanalyze. Do not indulge in garden variety psychoanalysis, because just some knowledge gleaned off the net, you read a blog post somewhere and you went around labeling. I think all of us concur on that. As professionals, we try to stay away from that. Do not psychoanalyze. Just be there as a friend, as a relative. Support them, provide them a safe space, and that's enough.
So I like
So,
to add to that, Anuja, that those great points by Manish. But the last and the most important point is seek help. If you're doing all of that and it's not helping you, please go and take some help. Go to a doctor. You have to start with a general physician. Talk to your general physician first. They will recommend you to a counselor, a psychiatrist. If a psychiatrist recommends medicine, it's fine. There's a lot of stigma around medication. Medication actually helps. If you go with the right combination of medication and psychotherapy, it's helpful. So if all of these tips are not helping you, you still feel, you feel restless, you don't have sleep, and whatever Manish said in the warning signs, please go and seek help. There are people around who will help you. Not your friends always. Seek professional help. It's okay not to be okay. So go and take help. That's what I
yeah,
would say. Yeah.
it's a very, very beautiful point, because some of us, we think when we ask help, we are weaker. And
Correct.
there is a very wrong misconception. The misconception is so strong that someone who asks for help is not strong enough. And continuing with the discussion, a lot of times when in the families you see a family member is overwhelmed, or they are in panic state, or they are not themselves. So in such cases, what is your advice when it comes to giving them that emotional first aid immediately? Of course, we can seek guidance through a counselor, or we can approach a psychotherapist. But what should I do if a family member is emotionally overwhelmed? What will be the
So,
tip?
so the question is for me, Anuja.
Yes.
So, what do family members generally do when we go to them for some issue? It's okay. It'll be fine. What is this? It's so silly you're thinking about this. Nothing like that. Get over it. Generally, they feel that helps. And but the first step in mental health first aid is to validate it, to validate that person's feeling, that okay, we understand you're feeling this, let's talk more about it, let the person talk
Right.
about. Generally we listen to this, we get this panic, this radar going, oh my god, and we try to start pushing one after the other advice. The first step is to actually validate what the person is saying. Listen to, as Manish said, listen to them, what they're saying, validate their feeling, and then give them comfort. Okay, we generally very politely brush them aside by giving them tips like go for a walk, listen to music, eat good food, talk to friends, But if you just give some time to listen to what they are saying, okay, and then take the right steps. So listen to what they're saying, validate what they're saying, understand what is the gravity of the situation, offer help to seek help, and keep a check. Like, don't forget about it. Keep a check on that person. A lot of parents and even like I see a lot of adults coming in saying, but no, that person is overreacting. How can you judge somebody overreacting? Who are you to judge that, right? So I think without judgment, listen, validate, and then support them in whatever ways you feel you can support them at that time, or go and seek help from the right professionals is what I would say.
Yeah, that's it's very much needed, I believe. And validation, or giving that person to explore, giving them space to explore their emotions, is something which is not prevalent, especially in our culture. Having lived in joint families earlier, now in a nuclear family, we were told not to express ourselves. Now, Poonam, my question to you is, how do we, now when, people to you come from diverse age group, and they, when they're trying to communicate about their problems or their health concerns, they sometimes also have self guilt. Maybe my partner is not wrong, but I did something to make them feel bad. Or it could be related to a child and parent, or it could be related to an employer or a boss, where they end up blaming themselves for everything wrong that's happening in their life, which leads to their mental health concerns. So, can you shed some light on it?
Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah, that happens. Generally, the way we have been brought up, mostly when we want to say that the way you are behaving is not so appropriate, because we as human beings are social animals. And as when we are dealing with you and the environment, we have a certain set of rules or conduct that is being taught through generations. So what happens is, mostly uh, whenever you are growing up, a lot of things are told that you should be this way, that way, must not, should not. So these must nots, should nots have created so much of issues within, that it leads to a lot of separation, depression, and a lot of things. And we all have gone through it. So this creates two difficult emotions in human beings, that is guilt and shame. These are very difficult emotions to process. And guilt is, it just cannot be seen, specifically when it is depression or any other issues. Guilt comes very naturally. अरे मैंने कुछ गलत तो नहीं किया, अरे मैंने ऐसा कुछ तो नहीं किया जिससे सामने वाले को तकलीफ हो। लेकिन हमें ये समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हमारे ह्यूमन बीइंग्स के सारे इश्यूज साइकोलॉजिकल है, लॉजिकल है ही नहीं। अगर लॉजिक से और स्टैटिस्टिक्स से और मैथमेटिक्स से सॉल्व चीजें हो सकती थी, तो आज दुनिया यूनिटी में, इक्वालिटी में और हार्मोनी में रहती थी। We would not have any single issues what we are facing today. But the whole idea is my issues are psychological. तो कल कोई आके अगर ये कहता है, आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अलोंग विद माय पेरेंट, आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अलोंग विद व्हाट आई एम गोइंग, नॉट गेटिंग अलोंग विद माय फ्रेंड, आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अलोंग with my partner or anything, that is true for them. So denying any of these things that is happening to them is not at all fine. It is very important that you give that listening space, as Parveen has beautifully mentioned, even
Right.
Manish has
Right.
mentioned, that empathy, that non-judgmental space. अच्छा, ऐसा नहीं होता है कि judgments नहीं आते, judgments आते हैं, लेकिन क्या ये possibility है कि हम restrain करें? There are four things, like four important characteristic at least you can handle whenever somebody is going through some anxiety, some worry, some issues, which you can see through behavior, is to see them, is like seen, soothe, safe, secure. So you need to see them, make them feel safe, make them feel secure, and soothe. These are the four aspects which any human being can take care of. So security is not in terms of the environmental, food, shelter, clothing. If food, shelter, clothing, ये सब चीजें तो mostly with God's grace लोगों को रहती है, नहीं रहती है वो एक अलग issues है। लेकिन जिसको रहती है, soothe, seen, secure. Security is in terms of internal security. That whatever thinking, but whatever feeling, whatever issues I am going through is fine. It's okay to go through what is happening. तो ये हम अपने बिहेवियर से, अपने तरीके से, अपने बॉडी लैंग्वेज से, अपने प्रेजेंस से, अपने टच से, just being there, just holding a space for that person to express. क्योंकि हम एज अ कॉमन पर्सन हम कोई एक्सपर्ट नहीं है, लेकिन हम सेफ्टी, सिक्योरिटी, soothness, ये सब चीजें, यू आर सेफ इन दिस एनवायरमेंट, यू आर फाइन, वट एवर यू आर गोइंग
Right.
थ्रू, इट्स एब्सोल्युटली ओके, एंड यू आर सीन, मतलब आई एम सीइंग यू, आई कैन फील यू, आई कैन सेंस यू। इतना भी अगर कहें कि आई अंडरस्टैंड, आई एम देयर, I
Yeah.
love you. We don't even say I love you. I have seen so many parents, they don't even express the word I love you. Even if you say these words at least 2 3 times to adults, like once they cross 13 14, parents don't even utter such words with lot of care and compassion. One is mechanical saying I love you, another is you really feel that love and warmth. So if you say this every time somebody expresses something, that's a beauty, that's a beauty in itself. And then of course seek help and do something about it. So yes, these four things, if you could take care of, I think that really helps a human being.
Uh, yeah, that's so true. Seek, be seen, soothe, and security. And I think I was recently reading about the 5 languages of love and how our languages are very different. For someone, it could be a physical sense of touch that will soothe them, that will make them feel secure. For someone, it could be, having words of appreciation spoken to them. Can we do that? Like, maybe just appreciating our loved ones even once, could be a small thing. And that really, you've very beautifully put all of this in this small span of time. uh, Manish, we were talking about a technique that you were going to share with the viewers and listeners. Would you like to guide us through the session?
Yes, absolutely. It would be an honor to do that. So I'll just need a minute to give everybody the background to what the technique is, lay the backdrop. So this is developed by Dr. Richard Davidson, who's a neuroscientist and who works with the Dalai Lama at the Mind and Life Institute. So this is the interface between Buddhist Indian philosophy and science, right? They're doing a lot of work there. Anuja, you would know, right? When you work on
Yes,
pranic healing. So
right.
before I take everyone through the technique, just a background. So these are the four pillars of well-being, right? So as defined by Dr. Davidson. And so the first pillar is awareness, just awareness of whether my mind has wandered or it's gone somewhere or not, right? So a lot of us get distracted. Half the time our mind is distracted, right? So just that golden moment of awareness when I know that my mind is distracted, that is awareness. That's the first pillar. Second pillar of well-being and resilience is good connection and other focus, right? Social connection, connection with our own selves, our deep self, connection with others, connection with situations, and other focus, keeping the focus on others. That's this pillar
Right.
number two. Pillar number three is insight, right? So in Vipassana, it's called prajna, uh, insight, right? What is the insight that comes from within? Pillar number four is purpose. What is our true north? What, why am I here right now with you all? Why is Poonam here, right? So remember these four pillars and let's get on with the practice. So I would invite all of you to join me in this practice. And if you notice your mind is getting distracted, gently acknowledge that and bring it back to what I'm saying or getting you all to do, right? So just sit with dignity. You know what sitting with dignity is. Back straight, neck and head upright. And if you're comfortable with closing your eyes, close your eyes. Some of us may just want to lower our gaze to the floor. That's also okay. And just settle into your body. Just settle into your body. Just noticing, not fixing anything, just noticing. Noticing how your breath is flowing. And as your body begins to settle more and more, you'll find that even your mind is settling gradually. And as you are feeling more settled, examine your motivation of why you are here today. What is the reason, the purpose that you're here today? Is it to do good for others? Is it to do something for yourself? And having known your motivation, tune into that motivation with a lot of calmness. And now, as you feel settled and quiet, think about the first pillar of awareness. Notice how your facial muscles are, your jaw, any tension in the neck, just the sensations in your body, how the chair feels against the thigh, how the floor feels against your feet. Just notice. We are not fixing anything, just noticing. And we are sitting in ourselves. Now bring the second pillar to your mind of connection, of other focus. Bring to mind one or two people who've been really helpful, really, really kind to you in the past week, month. It could be anybody, it could be a friend, it could be a spouse, It could be even the guy who delivered a pizza, a random stranger, somebody you bought vegetables from. Notice what connection and kindness and other focus feels like. Savor it. Possibly think about how you would like to express some gratitude to that person right now. Just rest. Simply rest in yourself. And now, slowly, gently move to the third pillar of insight. Is there an area of your life where bringing in a fresh perspective, not from outside, from within, a fresh perspective that can be of benefit to you? It would make you more connected. How might that affect your experience, your life, that particular insight? And now let's move to the fourth pillar of purpose. So here the invitation is find something beyond yourself that you connect to. Why are you engaging in activities that you engage in? Of helping others, of doing meditation, of working in the field, whatever it might be. For viewers watching, it may be any profession. Can you envision a more broader purpose than just what you're doing? And as you find that purpose, let it permeate all areas of your life. Stay with this for 5 seconds and then I'll guide you out. And now I request you to open your eyes and try and retain what you just experienced, whatever it was. I have no idea what it was. And see how you'd like to bring that same awareness to your day-to-day life.
It was a very blissful experience, Manish. Thank you so much for guiding us through all of it. And I'm sure listeners would always go back to this recording and try repeating this exercise. I would like to end today's discussion by talking to Praveen about the mental helpline number that they have already generated. Now, Praveen, can you also enlighten us about the infrastructure needs for schools or educational platforms for or how do we approach masses, like the step or the initiative taken by um, Birlas is really amazing. And can this be duplicated or would you be duplicating in different parts? So share with us what you have in your mind and how do you plan to do it?
So Empower was established in 2016 under Mrs. Neerja Birla. She's a founder chairperson. And the whole aim of Empower was to spread awareness, give the right services and also advocate the cause of mental health. Not only just give services, but also advocacy. And, more schools and more organizations for keeping that mission in mind of, awareness, advocacy services. We have the Empower Center in Mumbai, Bangalore, opening in Kolkata soon. Okay. We have various Empower counseling cells spread across, not only in Mumbai, and not only in big centers, but in schools, colleges, NGOs, where people can't come to us, we are reaching to them. And now the most recent, our helpline, which is open for everybody. I want to share the number with you all so that your listeners can actually call the helpline. It's a free helpline. There are Marathi, Hindi, English-speaking counselors. They're all professional psychologists. So there are no. And they all are working towards that. So you could call the helpline. We have launched the Minds Matter curriculum in schools so that we can empower the students to, prevent mental health issues later. We run the mental health first aid program, the youth mental health first aid program, the teen mental health first aid program in various schools and colleges and corporates also. And we plan to, expand more in terms of our cells and our centers. And of course, our helpline is there to reach out to everybody. So we are doing that. We have conclaves of professionals. We have our conferences where professionals can come and talk about it. So we do a lot of these things to spread mental health awareness and also give services. So I'm sharing the number right now, Anuja, with your permission. Okay.
Yes, please.
The Empower One-on-One helpline number in association with the BMC and Government of Maharashtra, the number is 1800-120-820050. I'm repeating, is 1800-120-820050. So please call if you think you need help, or you just want to talk to somebody. They are waiting. They will talk to you. They'll support you. You want some extra help, they'll guide you to Empower Foundation and centers. But do seek help. Do not sit with your issues and not do anything about it, is what I would say. Mental health is as equally important as physical health. If you're not mentally healthy, good physical health will not work, and vice versa. So please take care of your mental health, is what I would like to say.
Thank you so much. And I am feeling so much gratitude right now that, all of us are, yes, it's our profession, it's our career, but the innate drive to do it is to help the other person. The innate drive is to ensure that we are not just physically fit, but emotionally, mentally well. And I'm grateful to be around all of you guys and been given this opportunity. And it was lovely talking to all of you and listening to you, and the way your enthusiasm, your passion to help others is something that will has not only filled my heart, but I'm pretty sure all our viewers would, come back and watch this session again and again, and would always get new insights listening to the same thing, because their understanding will be deeper, their knowledge will be deeper. And something that very beautifully came through all the speakers is seek help. Don't label, and it is normal, it is okay. Everyone goes through it at certain level, in certain degrees and conditions, and we are all healthy. We just need to improve our health even more. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to Zero Gravity for making this platform available. And I'm very sure that this platform will bring to all of us more such topics of discussion and more great solutions. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we still live? Should I just switch off?